Welcome to LinkedUp, Breaking Boundaries in Education, a podcast that focuses on what is happening in education today, connecting everyone to the movers and shakers that are breaking boundaries in the education arena.
Welcome to LinkedUp, Breaking Boundaries in Education. You know, I love when we have friends come back and meet with us, Jerry. Yes. And today, because we always have one or two that we lean on for AI expertise. So we have a friend coming back, but then she got another friend. So we have a friend back today. Yeah. So we have extra AI expertise. So I'm looking forward to hearing about their partnership. It's pretty important and pretty special, actually.
Yes, I'm excited to hear about it as well. So today we have Amanda Bickerstaff and Sari Factor with us. And these two ladies are very heavily engaged in AI. But before we start, I want to ask you, have you been in the AI realm for a long time, or how did you get into this world of AI? And because you're both doing such great work, I just wondered how it all got started.
I guess since I got started way long ago, I've been in education technology for over 40 years. And most recently at Imagine Learning, one of the largest providers of K-12 curriculum solutions and services for schools. We've been using AI, and I'm not talking about generative AI, but AI in the big sense for years and years as part of our digital first solutions.
Right.
Of course, generative AI, when it came on the scene in late 2022, we immediately started to dive in and try to understand what this meant for teaching and learning, because at the core of what we do, it's really about teaching and learning and the outcomes that our materials provide and our solutions provide. And so we were looking at how can AI help in that realm? How can it help teachers become more efficient and effective in what they do? How can it improve learning outcomes for students? How can we think about communication with families? Because families are a big part of the teaching learning cycle.
Absolutely.
And so we've been looking at AI and using AI pretty intensively, generative AI, ever since ChatGPT came on the scene.
Well, that's fantastic. How about you, Amanda? How did you get involved in all of this?
Well, my last role before AI for Education was in Australia. So I was a CEO of an EdTech there, and it was pretty interesting. It was 2019 and 2022. Just how inaccessible for a small startup to even think about machine learning and algorithms to support. We were doing work that I think it would have been great to have around student perceptions of teaching and well-being, readiness to learn evaluations. But it was really interesting. So when we were doing these deep dives into how the technology could move forward, it was always we would never have enough data. We're not a big enough team. And so unfortunately for us, outside of you're talking 30 people versus, Imagine Learning's larger scope and ability to have access to that much data. It was really kind of outside of the purview of what I could do before generative AI was released. And for me, I always joke that, when ChatGPT was released, I was definitely not thinking about AI. I was on my own burnout journey. So I was 6 months abroad after leaving the role in Australia. And so I was actually in Japan in November of 2022. And my head was nowhere near work. But when I came back to the US and I was thinking about what to do next, it was around the same time that GPT-4 was released in March 2022. And it's funny, I actually came to generative AI not through ChatGPT. I came through it through a transformer model. I was working with a technical partner. We were thinking about building a transformer model, again, around well-being measures. And, it was really interesting because I was I don't know. I don't know if I want to build technology again, if I can actually have a locus of control. I want to be able to do it. And so then I kind of started to think about directly accessing the tools and use ChatGPT for the first time in March of 2022 or 2023. And that's when, AI for Education started the day after. It's really, it's the true story. I started posting on LinkedIn for the first time in a year. I had been completely kind of out of that realm. And it was really interesting to me. I think that at the very beginning, it was so clear to me that we had to learn how these tools worked and what they were and how to adopt them this very intentional way. And while I was learning, I was oh, okay, then I'll model that learning for people. I'll share. And that it's just really kind of steamrolled from there, where now we, do this work like AI literacy work all over the world.
Yes, she was hooked and hit the road, but that's like the way the whole world was when it first came on. And so I think that's where this project and where the two of you connected, because when you look back at when AI came about, we all were kind of like head spinning. And then we're kind of like, okay, well, we have to get some policies in place. But at the meantime, kids are using it, and they're using it without knowing how to use it responsibly and ethically. And so they have it on their phones, they're using it, but it's our job in education to make sure they're using it in the best and safest way possible. So then when they're not, no one's allowed to use it at all. And then what happens? They use it anyway, and then it gets worse. So there are decisions and choices that districts can make. And I love what the two of you did. You put together sort of a look into the future for different paths that districts can take and what the implications are. So I probably did not say that very well, but I want to hear exactly what it is and how it's really impacting districts now.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the evolution and how this came to be in the first place.
Yeah.
I had met Amanda at ASU GSV a couple of years beforehand, not long after she launched her business. And, we got to know each other and talk to each other. And then last year, 2025 at ASU GSV, it was a week after the AI 2027 report. I don't know if you've all read it or your listeners have read it, but it was a very provocative, fictional view of what could happen with AGI. What would happen and how quickly it would happen by 2027. If you haven't seen that, go to AI2027.com, AI-2027.com. And here we were, Amanda and I, at ASU GSB, their AI show, and we saw what was happening around us. The technologists were moving very, very quickly, speed of tech, yet schools were not. The policy frameworks were beginning to come out, things were moving, but moving at a school's pace. And we were like, how do we bridge this? How can we help schools grapple with what's in front of them? Our customers were asking us all the time, like, we see you using AI in your products, and, what do you think about these AI tutors out there? And they were asking us questions. So in a way, it was a way for us to kind of frame, okay, what if we would do a project like this for education? Data informed, but fictional view of what has happened since 2023 all the way forward to 2030. And we gathered a group of people that we thought would, these thought leaders, and Amanda will talk a little bit about the thought leaders who could really think about the tough choices that schools are having to make today, states are having to make today as they create guidance and legislation policy for their constituents. And we just decided we wanted to tackle it. We wanted to get in a room, talk about what could be, and build this fictional idea, this initiative around this idea. Amanda, you want to talk a little bit about who we brought and why?
Yeah, definitely. I think just two things. We were throwing a little bit of jargon around. So AGI, the 2027, AI 2027 report, was a look at the possibility of super intelligence. So we say artificial general intelligence. We mean when you think about Skynet, unfortunately, or data from, Star Trek or Rosie from the Jetsons. So these, autonomous, large level super intelligences. And so when we, I just want to also just a little bit of a point, not only were we seeing that schools pace was happening in schools, but also we're sitting on the floor of the AI show looking at booths of EdTech providers where it seemed like we had been stuck in time, like we were in amber, where the types of solutions on the floor had not changed much in a full year. And seeing how quickly things were happening around, other parts of, the models getting so much better, and like industries maybe not finding value yet, but going all in and what that looked like, it was something that I think just to pull out a bit is that like we just thought that it wasn't just schools that were behind, but the industry. And I think that was why when we think about the thought leaders that we brought into the room, they really were cross industry. And so we wanted it to be something that was representative of the different corners of the education ecosystem that have a stake in this moment in time. So we had two high school students. They were more than 10% of the convening. So, and Sari did 12 interviews. So we were very, very thoughtful about who to bring in the room. We had someone from DeepMind, Irina. So Google DeepMind is the transformer model, ChatGPT. The first time it was ever possible in 2016 was because of DeepMind. We had, people like Peter Foltz, who are the OG 1997 building an AI grader. We're talking like early stuff. And he's the head of the NSF work that's focused on AI and education. And then looking at, Jason B. Allen from the Parent Council, looking at, we had even though Nicole Fuller, unfortunately, from NCLD couldn't come from a disabilities perspective. She's due to weather. She still was able to be a part of this. But what was really unique about this is also we had some big names like our Tom Vanderark, our buddy Tom, and, a couple people from Stanford, Isabel and Chris, and all of these people that are just pretty remarkable humans on their own. But I will say it was so important for us to have people that had incredible knowledge of not just AI and education, but education from their own unique perspective. But the most important things for us was that people had to be like ready to like listen, engage, and grapple. We didn't want anybody in a room that was going to come in with a very defined idea of what the future would look like, because we wanted this to truly be an opportunity for us to like dive into this together. And I cannot tell you how remarkable it is. Like Sari and I are different, right? My last job, I was in Australia. Like I didn't have a huge network until this work started. So to be able to, between the two of us, bring these people together that trusted us with 2 days of their time on their own, like they came with it. But then to have like these really deep, intense conversations to lead to an outcome that became something that you really could grapple with, not just that we grappled with it, but now it's something that others could grapple with. I think it's still one of the most remarkable things that I've done in my career.
It really is phenomenal. It just allows us to, because everything is happening so quickly, it allows us to be more intentional, to be more, retrospective also, look back, and be intentional and make sure that we are not rushing through, but making decisions in the right way. One of the things that I think is really important is how, in terms of why don't you explain a little bit the different options? There are 3 different pathways that can, that districts could choose or through this path through up to, 2030. So why don't you explain those 3? And then we'll ask a couple questions about those.
So from the historical perspective up through 2027, we talk about this fictional school district of 4,500 students, central school district, pretty prototypical. They like to be middle of the road. They don't want to be too avant-garde, yet they're not the laggards either. And so they think of themselves as kind of right in the middle, hence central schools. And they have encountered the challenges of students cheating. They've encountered the resistance from the English teachers, other teachers, the inconsistency from teacher to teacher that confound students, all of those kinds of things. They have confounded vendors coming in and trying to push different platforms and, solidify a commitment to a platform for a long term, so like we're reflecting what we're hearing in the market around this in the school as we personify it, right? And it goes through to 2027. And then in 2027, there's a decision to be made. And the decision is, do we go full on tech where we automate everything? Do we resist tech and say, and we're hearing this in a lot of places right now, no screens, no phones, irrespective of what the educational purpose is, there are people who are just putting up barriers. There are districts that are putting up barriers, schools that are putting up barriers to any kind of technology. And then the third option is to really think about redesigning schools for the future and for the future of work. We actually had an outside expert, Molly Kinder from Brookings Institution, talk to us about the future of work and what's happening in the workforce and what they see happening and kind of the skills that will be valued by employers increasingly in a world of generative AI. So, our team got to think about the people that we gathered at the convening got to think about and grapple with how might schools take this differently. Now we know there are multiple possible outcomes. We chose 3 very different ones to illustrate what could be and the various decisions that schools need to really consider today. Your word, Jamie, intentional, is so much a part of what we talked about, is the intention. What are the values of the school and the school community that school is operating in, the district community that the district is operating in, to make the kinds of decisions that are best for their school, families, community, students.
Yeah. Amanda, do you want to add anything there?
I think that Sari did a beautiful job of wrapping up. I think that a couple of things. First of all, the name of the report we haven't said.
No, we haven't said that.
Beyond the AI Inflection Point, which you can find at beyondtheAIinflectionpoint.com. I think that, a couple of things maybe to sort of point on is that, one of the things that we grappled with, and I'll use that word again, was how long to make this, like how long to make this journey, this fictional journey of Central School District. And one of the things that was very important for us is that we go back in time as well. So 2023 is the start of this piece, which is really when, the majority of schools started to feel this like impact of generative AI, both within student use, teacher use, parents, complexity, board member questions. And so if you are on your own journey as a district leader, a board member, an EdTech provider, you should see yourself for parts of your journey in that 2023 to 2025 span. And that's one of the things that is pretty unique about this, is that no matter what happens with this piece, that this is a capsule of what has happened in districts around the country, if not the world. And we were so considerate about it feeling as real as possible. And luckily, especially for us, this is like our bread and butter. We could actually pull anecdotes and, we're able to pull places. But then what we do is we go, the kind of sparking moment of willingness to move out of the middle was this idea of an innovative skunkworks lab school. So we're not talking if you're familiar with lab school, they tend to be this thing that happens out, it's a special thing with special teachers that doesn't always the research shows that those learnings don't always get phased back into schools because of the cost or the lack of diffusion or the skill sets of those that are in the school themselves. So we wanted to really model what we think needs to happen in 2026 to 2027. So we're not just doing a capsule, but we're manifesting what we hope to start seeing more and more. To then have that 2027 meet, because the thing is that just saying you're going to do an innovative lab approach, you're going to have guidelines, these things is not enough for the willingness of the pain of change management in such a huge way, and innovation and breaking systems that are, we are very good at not changing in education. It's one of our biggest skills is staying the same, even in enormous, disruption. So what we wanted to do is really have it feel again, we want you to feel this question. And one of the things that I think really was kind of interesting for us is that the idea of going back to traditional models, one of the takeaways when we really came down to it was kids are not learning enough of either. They're not getting the classical education that we think, that some people still think is the most important, because you're using AI at home, and they're using it without guidance, and they're using it without support. And then but they're also not using it in ways in which they're future ready. And then the opposite happens in the piece where we go all in on the algorithm, where we just take the human out of education in a way that really pulls the most, that key important moments of every young person's life of having that experience of really learning and being pushed, of, hopefully not every student, but we want it to be for them. And I think that while there are probably places where we could look at mixing and matching multiple parts of those, it was important for us to kind of clarify what we think the danger is. What do we think the risk is? And where are we going to make compromises that could potentially really harm young people's ability to live in a world that will never slow down. This is the slowest the world will ever be. Like, the world will never be this slow ever again. And it already feels really fast. It's only going to speed up in terms of complexity of change, of needing to be able to respond, have agility. And I think that was something we really wanted to represent from the piece.
What are you seeing as dangers and risks in these 3 different areas?
Well, okay, so I think let's start with the past. Okay, it's so funny because I don't know about you, Sari, but because we do this all the time, Corey and I now talk in past. Corey on our team are like, that's a very path A moment. So I'm going to use the term. So path A is your, like, re-entrenchment of traditional methods. Path B is your algorithmic kind of all in. And the third is this kind of messy middle we're calling redesigning school. And so I'll start with the one that we think is most positive. I think the biggest thing is we are not, like, to make that much change is going to require not just rebuilding or moving out like Lego blocks. It's going to require really significant change from all parts of call, and not just education, not just schools, right? It's a quantum, Sari. It's tech. It is EdTech. It is accountability, which Sari can talk about. She's did an amazing meeting on that. It's going to be regulations. It's going to be research. It's going to be budgets. And that is in itself a risk, right? Because to be able to move this huge, complex system of thousands of districts, just them in a space, but also to create this opportunity to have things that might not go well, of a calculated risk tolerance, of trying things out, I think is in itself the thing that we believe that people will strongly be like, this sounds great, but when have we ever seen that happen? I think the biggest risk of Path C is we've never seen this happen at scale before, and that is an enormous problem. Like, we didn't have things to pull from. It's actually pretty interesting. We're like, when has this worked before? And people are like, I don't know, like maybe for COVID a little teeny bit, but with online learning. So I think that is the number one. The thing that we want the most is going to be like incredibly difficult for us to like manage. For Path B, which is that kind of like all-in algorithm kind of piece, I think that the thing that is probably most remarkable is in terms of like thinking we could just get AI in schools, is you start to really disrupt like what is learning, what is human skills, what is the importance of connection and collaboration, and teachers, like, one of the biggest, complaints from teachers or fears is AI cheating, of course, but it's also job replacement. Like, am I going to have a job? Will my work be considered to be important? But even more than that, AI systems are surveillance. Like, do you really want a system to know everything about a school and everything about kids and making decisions about those kids, those like that, without a human in the loop? So I think that those two are like really big. And maybe Sari, you want to talk about, I feel like I'm talking too much. So if you want to talk about Path A, or I'm happy to keep going, but
and Path A, I think, the retrenchment path really fails to enable students with the skills that they are going to need for the future. It's very, very clear that almost every job will be impacted by AI in some way. Now, you can argue, what does that mean, impacted? In some ways, we're already seeing it with engineers and the work that engineering is doing being dramatically impacted by the capabilities of generative AI. And, the latest from Claude, I mean, we're talking really recent, the last couple of weeks. Anthropic is making moves there to totally transform the software development and engineering. On the other hand, you talk about, a healthcare profession like nursing, which is so much hands-on and so on. And that the caring profession, they can be augmented by AI, certainly, but the need to do the nursing work is not AI. But everybody will have AI impact, it will impact every kind of job. And we need to be able to equip our young people to live in that future, where they can choose the work that they want to do, and they are applying the AI. So this is one of my kind of soapboxes, is AI's got to be interwoven through the curriculum. We have to be teaching kids about it, which means we have to teach teachers about it.
Right.
And so this notion of it is a new literacy that every person really needs to have. You need to be able to know, am I trusting what Google's telling me or not trusting what Google's telling me, or any AI bot? And the AI is behind so much of what we do. That's the other thing. It might not identify as AI, but it's there when you're shopping, when you're doing your banking, everything. In fact, my doctor just asked me to sign something that lets AI take notes when I talk to her. And I said, I'm not doing it. That's me personally. Everybody has to make the choice for themselves. And that is the point exactly, is we want school leaders, want administrators, we want legislators to be really thoughtful here about what we want for our kids as they grow up. I mean, there are certainly different needs at different ages. We're not talking about, AI literacy in place of teaching reading and teaching mathematics. Kids need to have the foundational skills, because without those, they aren't going to be able to acquire the other literacies. But what do we even mean by media literacy? This is becoming really, really important, and we want.
I think what you said earlier is it has to be embedded. So it's not something isolated. It's embedded into our world. So it needs to be embedded into the curriculum. And first and foremost, making sure that teachers have that handle on it so they can, guide students. One of the dangers, one of the risks in the path A is cognitive offloading. Right. So having students just do it for them, do all the thinking for them. Where in the path is that happy medium? Where can we make sure that students are using it for efficiency in some cases, but really leveraging it in a way to be a thought partner so that they can, work to innovate, because that's where really our world is leading in the end. And, what is that durable skill that they actually need to help them use it in that way and help them in their world in the future?
I think, the building of AI resilient activities, tasks, assessments is becoming an important criterion for, what is it that we want students to be able to do? Not just write with AI, but critique what AI has put out. It's those critical thinking skills that we want students to be able to acquire. Jamie, I'm so glad you mentioned durable skills, because that's what we're hearing from employers. That's what they want. Critical thinking, adaptability, the ability to work well with others and communicate. Those things, those human skills, uniquely human skills, are not going away and are in more demand than ever.
In more demand than ever is so true. I mean, when I was a teacher back in the 1900s, we had this great professional learning opportunity where for the whole summer, not for the whole summer, I think for like 3 weeks, we lived in dorms in a college, and a bus would pick us up and take us out to different corporations. I was a science teacher, and we got to go to Shearing Plow and Unilever. And, they said, even if we have people working in a lab all the time, they have to be able to be good communicators. They have to be able to collaborate with people. They have to think critically. These are the things that we want in our workforce, the 21st century skills. Back then is what we called them, their future ready skills. But this was in the 90s. And yet even more so, these skills are in demand now. So I feel like it's so important to make sure that, at the heart of it, I think it's really a mix. It's a matter of making sure that instructional best practices are the foundation, and AI is this, I don't even want to call it a tool. I'm not sure what we should call it, but it's something that is part of our lives, and we need to be learning to respect it, but at the same time, question it. As you said, Sari, we need to teach students to be to advocate for themselves, as you just described. So all of these different things that they've always needed to do, but I think it's amplified even more for sure. Yeah.
I mean, I think that if we're really, I'm going to push us here, because I think we're talking too close to like this moment in time, and the whole the whole point of this piece is futurism. And I think that absolutely that durable skills like communication, collaboration, critical thinking are going to not just remain essential, but become more important. But I also think we need to be like really aware of the disruption that's coming. And there's research that's pretty recent that comes out that's come out and said that in the same role, people are having tasks that are being automated by AI and augmented, meaning like we're replacing some tasks and we're augmenting others in the same role within 3+ years, right? And so I think that when we think about AI literacy, like AI literacy cannot be the goal. AI literacy is the table stakes. AI literacy of knowing what generative AI is and isn't, and being able to have enough technical knowledge to understand these tools are probabilistic and predictive, that they make mistakes, that the training data matters, the way that you as a user are critical in a way that technology has never been, like in the case of like humanity before, is just table stakes. And whether that is awareness for a second grader before they started using an AI toy that they find at their friend's house, all the way through a high schooler that's thinking about going to college and making decisions about when and when not to use ChatGPT. When you have or whatever it may be. But I think what we have to start thinking about, and a part of this piece is like, literacy can't be the goal. Fluency, dexterity, like has to be the goal. And that's where these tools become like, you are now, AI is a creative agency. So this, instead of working with Sean, who was amazing, I never want to replace Sean, but Sean helped us so much in designing and branding. But like, if I'm an individual and I just want to just get started, like thinking of AI as something to help me as if I don't have a creative agency, right? That's helping me think through these things. It's supplementing and augmenting my practice as a proofreader, a copy editor, as a mentor, not in a sense of amplification, but something that I can use to kind of push me on my thinking, because it's always going to come back to like the way that I think, because I'm not letting this tell me what to think. I'm using this to help me clarify the things that matter, which is what a mentor does, a good mentor anyway. And so I think that when we think about the goals of this piece is that we want, like, if I had my magic wand, and I think that Sari have slightly different magic wands, but my magic wand, if I had one go, is that like by the 2027 school year, AI literacy is a graduation requirement.
Yeah.
Not just that like in elementary, middle, high school, moving that way, and that there are AI competency and fluency moves in every college in the world. And it's interesting because I think that there's this idea that it won't last, that why would we make this change if you're only going to need these types of skills for 5 to 10 years? But these 5 to 10 years are so crucial to our next steps for us to be not just consumers, but to be creators, to be collaborators, to be agentic, to push back when things we don't want. I mean, I think people are experiencing a pretty significant pushback of watching all the AI commercials at the Super Bowl last night. That were like both like scary and weird and uncomfortable. Instead of just going online, but saying like, we can actually push back and say, these are things we will use or not. I think that is like our goal, at least one of the goals of the reason why it was so important for us to spend so much time on it, is that we can't move forward without recognizing that this is a non-negotiable today.
Yeah, it's basic and foundational that AI literacy needs to be in place so that we can move forward with it. We can use it for augmentation. We can use it for innovation. That it needs to be a thought partner, but they need to understand those basics first. So, we have to consider the inequities when some districts are choosing path A versus path B versus path C. So it's really, it can be, I think calling this out could be detrimental. So I love that wand of yours, but Sari, Amanda mentioned that your wand might be a little different. What if you had one go of it? What would yours be?
Yeah, my wand is really more around, that is a piece of it, but it's really around thinking about how do we help every student fulfill their full potential? And in what ways can AI help them do that? And you think about the child who might not be a great writer, but she could be a phenomenal dancer, and she could have a way of, or an artist, tremendous way of expressing herself through her art to demonstrate her understanding of something. And then the person who maybe isn't as good as art, but they could use the AI to, in a new way, express an idea, express a learning. I mean, I do think that moving towards a more portfolio approach, as opposed to assessment and accountability so tied to one another. I don't want to give up, and we shouldn't give up on the rigorous academics that are needed for every learner. At the same time, this is a new way for students to learn, express themselves, and to help them thrive as individuals. So, and I think we've left so many kids behind over this last 20 years, especially the last decade, that I'm hopeful with my magic wand that just the vector of AI coming in as a signal of how fast the world is changing will be a catalyst to galvanize a movement around really driving change in schools to help every learner.
That's what it's all about. Yeah.
If you had a message for decision makers in school districts, be it superintendent, school board, the people making the decisions, what would your message be at this time to them as they're trying to decide what path to choose?
Well, that's why we included so many tools in our toolkit. We've given them some tools. You know, when we gathered 20 people in the room, you can imagine there were a lot of opinions and a lot of differences in how we thought about AI in schools and how AI would transform the world and the world of education. And so we went through a lot of activities. Amanda and I put the group through some activities, and we've replicated some of those activities right in our toolkit. So what we've tried to do here, and my big message is, like, talk about it. Don't try to bury AI under the rug. Don't assume it's going to go away, because it's not. Amanda just clearly described that it is not. Our world is moving so fast. I mean, even think about in my own job and how over the last 3 years I've used AI and I can barely keep up. So without an intentional focus here, I think schools will fall further behind. I would encourage discussions with your community and your stakeholders. And so that's my other message, is do some of these activities with those key stakeholders so that you can move forward together.
Now, is your toolkit available for any district to look at? And is there a cost to that? Tell us a little more about that.
It was really important. We were a different, you're not filming with AI for education. We're, doing, AI literacy and workshops and, consulting on this all the time. So it was really, really important for us to have something that could be actionable. And so we actually spent a really considerable amount of time creating a we're talking, this toolkit is a full day agenda with every single piece of material you can use, including facilitator guides, handouts, presentations that are branded and available. So all of it's freely available. We also have a resource library from some of our partners. So it doesn't matter where you are. Like the major call to action is to take action, is to do something with this. Like, we are hearing such good feedback from our, leaders and educators who say, I gave this to my board and they're thinking differently, or this is what I've been trying to communicate, or this is spurring discussion. And it's, we know that not every organization is ready for these types of conversations, but we're hoping that by providing them not only the choose your own adventure story that is incredibly accessible, but also the everything you would need to do something similar to start talking about some of these things is going to be really important. And then the goal is to continue this work. I mean, we are, hoping to do like a convening over the summer. We're going to try to, if people aren't ready, we're going to keep doing the things to help them get there and to create those anchors and those entry points, because, no matter what happens, the choices need to be made now. They can't be 2028, 2029, 2030. They need to be now into the next year to 2 years. And so that is really like what I think the longevity of the piece is. Like, we want this to feel like a living document. Like, we want this to feel like it's something that you really can, it doesn't have to be tomorrow, but this summer, if you're a school leader thinking, get a cross-functional AI committee together and go through our creative tensions activity, which asks people to really grapple, again, use that word, but with these these ideas of what holds us back and what we really feel, or start to think about a vision statement of what generative AI and AI could do for your young people, to Sari's point, or to start thinking just through what individually do we want? Like, what are we bringing in? Like, what are things we want and don't want, so that we can start to be intentional about the ways in which we set up PD and student AI literacy and resources, the pressure we're going to put on big tech and ed tech to build better things for us, like whatever that may be. That's our real goal with how we try to create this to be as accessible as possible.
Get
Sounds
those
like
conversations
a
going.
terrific resource. Yes. Where do I find this resource?
So it's on the website. So beyond the AI Inflection Point .com. It's not a short one, but if you search beyond the AI Inflection Point. So if you go to the website, there's a couple things. Number one is you can see the whole piece and choose your adventure at the end. You're going to read the different paths. We then have a whole bunch of research, so evidence-based. So there are over about 100 footnotes or that are pop-ups of research on AI cheating, statistics, things around AI adoption. We have if you're I need good data to go back to my organization.
Right.
And then we have our Take Action toolkit, which is just a downloadable with all the things linked, and then those resources. So there's really you can do as many things as you want with it. We also have a downloadable version in case people want to do it as a reading study, and we have a discussion guide for that as well.
This is great. I can see, yes, within district, but I can also see school leaders within a county or state kind of coming together as well to help the conversation move forward. I can see students in on these conversations, obviously, as well, part of the committee in a school. I think it's so wonderful that you were very intentional in putting this together, so that way people can use it without having to have support. It seems to be a standalone, as you mentioned, actionable resource, so that districts, board members, leaders, teachers, students, parents, community, they can just jump right in and contemplate, think, make decisions. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, we're going to do that. I don't even think Sari knows this, but we have a grant with, we have one of the AI grants, 3-year grants in North Carolina, which is one of the states that's really done a lot of investment. Yeah. And so we're what are we going to do this year? And so Catawba County is going to bring, they have this network of districts of all types of sizes and regionality. They're going to come together. We're going to do a similar meeting with them. So that'll be the first one that we do to help spur that. And, it'll be good to, I will say when we did this live with our 20 thought leaders, it was the highest degree of difficulty facilitation, at least I've ever experienced. And I've done a lot now. So I'm sure I'm kind of ready for it to be these people have big feelings and they have to have a space to go. But it's exciting to think that as the kind of momentum picks up, we'll hopefully start seeing this in other places. Because I also think, Sari, I think it could be done in a company. I think an ed tech company. I think it could be done in a university. I think it could be done. I honestly think
nonprofit, absolutely nonprofits. It's what do you want for your organization? It's really, it definitely has an education lens, but it could be done in any organization.
I love it. It's a gift. It's really, truly a gift. And we thank you both so much for your work on it and for taking today to teach us all about it. So Jerry, we're going to put it in our show notes and so everyone can access it. I love it.
Wonderful. I'm going to go check it out now.
Thrilled to share it.
Well, thank you so much for giving us your time today and for giving everyone this resource.
Thank you for listening. And if you would like to stay linked up, be sure to follow us on Apple and Spotify and subscribe to us on YouTube.